And it's your boy Ghiman Mckinney. You already know what it is. It is the Juice Alert, back here with another video for you. And today, guys, we will be going over the conference championship games and who I think probably is going to make the playoffs based on these predictions. We're going to go game by game, prediction by prediction, give you the score, give me my input as to why these teams will win, and talk about who potentially will make the playoffs and different scenarios like that. So yeah, let's get right into it. Right before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, share it with your friends and things like that. I'm excited, guys. You know, these conference championship games are gonna be really great. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So we're gonna start off talking about the SEC title game, Alabama versus Georgia. Probably the most anticipated game of the weekend based on the hype and you know how good teams are, I would say. I think Alabama's going to win 30-24. Listen, Georgia is, I think it's going to be close. You know, people saying, Alabama, oh, they're so unbeatable, man. They can't beat, no, stop it. They can be beaten. They can be beaten, and Georgia has a really good shot to do so. But I just can't pick them, you know. For me, it comes down to this. You know, Georgia's only got about 20 sacks on the year. You know, that's middle of the pack at best in college football right now. I don't think they can get enough pressure on Tua Tagovailoa. I think he's going to eat them alive to some degree. Not entirely, because they have a great secondary, Georgia does. DeAndre Baker, to me, is the best cornerback in college football right now. Yes, I know Greedy Williams exists. I've watched tape and all that stuff, but that's not what we're talking about. So I think the back end of Georgia is going to be able to match up with Alabama's receivers and limit them a little bit, but they just can't get enough pressure on Tua. And eventually, you know, with the depth and the receivers, Jerry Jeudy, things like that, of Alabama and Tua, and that offensive line too. Alabama's only allowed about 11 sacks on the year. Georgia's just not going to be able to get enough pressure. And, you know, like I said, Alabama's second in the nation in offense. Now, I think it's going to be a little bit more closer just because Georgia's a little ticked off because of what happened in the national championship last year and things like that. But, guys, I just don't trust Jake Fromm. You know, last time we saw him versus a defense that was almost as good as Alabama, he barely threw for 200 yards versus LSU. They got blown out by 20 points. He threw 2 interceptions. I just don't trust him. When you're going to beat Alabama, you have to be able to throw the ball around the field. Now, they have 5-star wide receivers, don't get me wrong. But the way they utilize them, you know, they throw a lot of underneath curl routes, things like that. They don't take a whole lot of deep shots. And I think that you have to take deep shots when you face Alabama. You saw Deshaun Watson, Cardell Jones, quarterbacks like that beaten Alabama in the past. They sling the ball around the field. I don't trust Jake Fromm. He's barely even averaging 200 yards passing per game on the year. So, yeah, I think that's why Alabama wins. I think it'll be close, though. It is in Atlanta, the game is, but I just think Alabama's the better team. They clearly have the better quarterback. Now, versus Mississippi State, Alabama struggled a little bit. You know, so this is the best offense Alabama's going to face all year. You know, they haven't faced a great offense all year, but I just think Alabama gets it done. Let's get to the Big Ten title game. I think Ohio State's going to win. They face Northwestern. These teams did not meet in the regular season. I think Ohio State's going to win somewhere around 45-13. Listen, I think Ohio State has hit their stride. You know, they hit their stride some parts of the year, but, you know, they have a lot of momentum. They have the momentum. Now, Ohio State's a team where they could come out and lay an egg where, you know, like last year, such a great game versus Penn State. The very next week, they play Iowa. I think this Ohio State team is different. I think that offense is better. You know, this is a complete mismatch on neutral field to me. I think Ohio State's playing their best football, like I said, and Northwestern is in the 100th in the country offensively. I just think that they're a little bit better version of Michigan State. And now that was a little bit of a close game somewhat, but Ohio State won by 20 versus Michigan State. I think on a neutral field, the way Ohio State's playing, they know what's at stake. They know they're going to need to blow somebody out in order to make the playoffs. I just think they're going to show up. I think Dwayne Haskins is going to throw about 4 touchdowns. Now, Northwestern plays they have a solid defense. They play a lot of zone coverage, not like Michigan, where they leave their corners on islands. So they're going to keep the ball in front of Dwayne Haskins, all those two people. But, Northwestern, you know, they've competed with Notre Dame and Michigan, but they were both games at home. This is a neutral site field. I think there'll be a lot more Ohio State fans there. And, you know, I just don't think Northwestern has the players to match with Ohio State. You know, all you need to know is they lost to Akron. And who else did they lose to? Yeah, they lost to Akron, they lost to Duke, and barely beat Illinois. That's not going to cut it for me as far as facing Ohio State. I think Ohio State's just a better team. They're going to impose their will, and they know what's at stake. They're playing some of their best ball now, right now, I think. Let's go to the Pac-12 title game. I think Washington is going to beat Utah. I have them winning 30-20. Listen, Washington's a couple possessions from being undefeated on the year, guys. Now, whether you think they're one of the 10 best teams or not, I think they're borderline top 10 team. They've been in these games. They've lost 3 games, but by a combined let's see real quick. Yeah, they lost 3 games by a combined 10 points. So they're all one possession games. Are right there. They had the close loss to Auburn, close loss to Oregon, which is a good team that I think should be ranked, and they also lost to Cal, who was ranked early in the year. Now Cal's not a very good team to me, but it was a road game. But I just think that Washington's found themselves. Defensively, these 2 teams both are top 20 in the country defensively. I just feel like Washington, like I said, kind of like Ohio State, they finally put together their best game versus Washington State on the road. They held Washington State, which was the top 15 offense, to only 13 points. And, like I said, I just think Washington's the better team. They were the better team heading into the offseason. They were projected to be. They did beat Utah early in the year. I expect them to do the same again. And, yeah, I just think that Washington's defense is going to be a little bit too much for Utah, and their offense is finding it together running the ball with Myles Gaskin. Now, let's get to the AAC championship. Not ACC, AAC. Memphis versus UCF. I have Memphis winning 28-20. This is the game that UCF almost lost in the regular season. It was 31-30. The game was at Memphis. I think Memphis gets them in a rematch. Mackenzie Milton, he's out for the year. I just think that their backup quarterback, which came in relief versus South Florida, he only completed 50% of his passes. I think he's going to give Memphis a couple of turnovers. And, Memphis, they're not a top 6 team offensively, but statistically wise, they are in the country. They're top 6 in the country offensively. So they can capitalize off some of these turnovers. Now, they haven't played anybody, but, you got to look at it. Like, they can score some points if they get a couple turnovers. I think they're going to stack the box. They're going to force the backup quarterback of UCF to beat them. If Mackenzie Milton was playing, I pick UCF. But like I said, Memphis gave them a lot of problems early in the year. Why can't they give them problems now in a rematch? I mean, it's going to be tough for UCF, I think. So we got those down. Yeah, let's go to the Mountain West title. Fresno State versus Boise State. I think Fresno State wins 24-20. They're a great defensive team. They're second in the team they're the second best defensive team as far as points per game is allowed in the country. Now, are they truly that? No, they haven't played anybody, but facing the team they're facing, they can get it done. They have a decent defense. This is a rematch where Boise State won at Boise State by a touchdown. I think Fresno State comes back, gets revenge, beats Boise State on a neutral site field. I think on a neutral site field they're a little bit better, and they're decent offensively. They can score a couple of points, so give me them in the rematch. Let's get to the ACC title game. Clemson versus Pittsburgh. Now, Clemson, to me, I thought they had the best defense, but South Carolina threw for almost 500 yards on them last week, so they have some concerns. They got to sort some things up, but, Pittsburgh, the thing that should tell you the story is they lost 51-6 to Penn State. Is Penn State better than Clemson? Not at all, okay? Now, they did, they also lost to Miami. Miami's been a very disappointing team this year, Pittsburgh has, and, they hung in there with Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has been inconsistent at sometimes, versus Ball State, versus, Southern Cal, USC. I just think Clemson's on another atmosphere as far as the athletes they have. Kind of like Ohio State with Northwestern. They're just better. They really are. And, Clemson versus Boston College, it could have that feel where, they won that game like 27-7 or something like that, where Clemson misses a couple opportunities. Pittsburgh comes out, competes after that disappointing loss to Miami. But I just think Clemson runs up the score. They know what's at stake. They know if they lose, they most likely might be out of the playoffs. If Ohio State wins, if Oklahoma wins, teams like that. The ACC is terrible, so they really have no margin for error, in my opinion. I think Clemson goes out and dominates 42-14. Now, the Big 12 title game. This is the big one, Texas versus Oklahoma. As much as I also want to mention, potentially, Iowa State and Drake, the University of Drake. Okay, yeah, they're playing this tomorrow as well. If Iowa State were to lose, I don't think they will, but if they lose, they're out of the top 24. So that could affect Oklahoma's resume. I just wanted to point that out, but I don't think it may or may not, but I just wanted to point that out. But Oklahoma, I think they're going to win 52-48. Listen, Oklahoma, versus Texas on the neutral site field when they played them, it was 45-24 Texas. Texas was up 45-24 heading into the fourth. I just don't trust this OU defense. Oklahoma ultimately came back. They lost only by 3. That was an amazing comeback, amazing game. But I just don't see Texas being able to beat Oklahoma twice. I think Lincoln Riley makes some adjustments. Their defense over the past 4 games has regressed since they've fired their coordinator. They've allowed 47 points. I just don't trust this Oklahoma defense, but I do trust the offense. I just don't think they're losing to Texas twice. As much as I hate it because I'm a Buckeyes fan. I want my Ohio State Buckeyes in the playoffs. I think Oklahoma gets it done. I think they're motivated. Texas, I think they're going to come out and play a good game. They were struggling versus Kansas. But, Oklahoma is the best offense in the country for a reason. I think they're going to show it. Army versus Navy, the very last game we're going to talk about. Navy is 3-9 on the year. That should tell you enough. Army hung in there with Oklahoma in Norman. They barely lost that game in overtime. Sorry. I think they're going to win about 35-13. So, yeah, I think that's about it. I haven't really watched a lot of Army games, but that's just my prediction for them. But that's it, guys. Potentially, I think Ohio State can get in if they blow out Northwestern. If Oklahoma struggles, I don't know. But as of right now, based on that, I think you got to look at it. And I hate to say it, but I think Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and I don't know with Ohio State, Oklahoma. If Oklahoma barely wins, Ohio State absolutely annihilates Northwestern, I think they might, jump them. But based on this committee, I think Oklahoma might get in the playoffs. I have to say it, but I hope I'm wrong. But that's about it for this video, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that stuff like that. It's been your boy Ghiman Mckinney. Tune in this weekend for college football. It's gonna be some great games. I definitely gonna be tuning in all day. And